Good evening, folks. Welcome to tonight's Record Sport Hotline Live. I'm Daniel Caw. Oh, sorry, I'm not Daniel Caw. Daniel Caw, I think, is in a slightly dodgy curry. He had to race off, hasn't he? So I'm Michael Gannon. I'm emergency stand-in, guys. Keith and Scott out there in Greece. How are you, boys? I think the faith is flying by the seat of our pants this evening, are we?
How are we, Mick? Honestly, we listen. I tell you what, you don't want to do is experience rush hour traffic in Athens. No. What was that taxi journey like?
That was horrendous.
Which we've just got out of this car, right? I got a receipt. Guy signed it, Dick Dastardly. It was a wacky races, Mick. On top of that, my reading glasses have flown out my pocket at some point. They're lost somewhere in Athens. I can hardly see anything, which is probably no bad thing.
I feel as if I've taken my granddad on holiday for a couple of days.
You're looking after your old ass. It's got to, aye.
Oh, it's shambolic. However, Mick, I'm very pleased to report, in typical Scotty and me on tour, Hotline Live fashion, we have managed to get a bar, the hotel bars, and a little beer just to try and settle the nerves. It's been shambolic. I don't mind telling you.
I think you boys have earned it. People think it's easy doing all this travelling about the world. It's not easy. It's especially us guys of a certain vintage. It's a hard old shift, isn't it?
Well, I'm totally goose now. I can't see a thing. I'm basically cutting about like Mr. Magoo.
Hopefully this is not a bad omen for the game this week. I
also had laptop problems at Edinburgh Airport. The irony was that we got through Edinburgh Airport. Everyone went just too well, and I said to Scott, I was nervous about that. It's a bad start when everyone goes too well. You know there's things going to happen, and here we are.
The good thing is he gets sat next to two Tartan Army on the flight there, so that perked him up no end.
Sitting with the kilts on, the skiing doos and all that stuff. It's better sitting with the boys on the way out, because the way back the kilts get a little bit kind of fusty, don't they?
But we'll be on the same plane with the same people, guaranteed. By the way, can you see the backdrop?
I was going to say, is that the Acropolis behind you?
That is Acropolis now.
Brilliant. That bit of culture for the viewers. What's the weather like out there this time of year?
It's a bit chilly.
The temperature appears to have dropped somewhat. We expected 20 odd degrees.
I've got my shorts.
I have to tell you,
my shorts and t-shirt that way, Mick.
It's not quite that.
You get to a certain age, Scott, you need to take a wee sweater with you. These kind of trips, a wee sweater.
Definitely, aye. I've got a wee jumper with I know. Don't worry about that.
So there was no issue with Scotland needing the water breaks and all that stuff.
The kickoff's at 9:45 at night, Mick. So
9:45 at night.
Aye.
What is the kind of the prevailing moods with the Scotland camp this week? How are you finding it? What are we thinking?
You've not seen it. I've been doing it.
You have actually.
He's not very
confident, Mick. Very confident.
Scott's reading the Daily Record. Figure his mood.
I'm hearing it's very, very confident.
I think
they
it is.
Make amends, didn't they, for the last camp? Even though they get the results, the performances weren't good enough, and obviously that prompted a bit of a blast for Steve Clarke, which was quite rare for this group of players. Yep. So I think you'll see. I think that was calculated and deliberate by the manager. He doesn't often do it, but those performances were poor, and I think he knew that night just how big this week was going to be, and he's put a wee kind of rocket up their backside, and hopefully he'll get a reaction.
By the way, you look good, man.
It's
I've seen you.
I was going to say, it's not really, wasn't it not like Clarkey to kind of let loose like that? I mean, it was quite. I know he does. I know he's been the kind of the grumpy man for us and all that stuff, but he did kind of put
the protects the players, Mick, doesn't he? He always protects the players.
I mean, he was in with 2 feet, didn't he? But I guess we're now in the situation was if he said to us that with 2 games to go in this position, they'd absolutely been delighted, wouldn't we? Even but
I think Scott's called it absolutely correct, Mick. I think that was very deliberate. It was calculated. He left, or the players left Hampden Park that night with their ears stinging. Because, and for one simple reason, if they perform at that level in the next 2 games, even though they took 6 points from those 2, not going to qualify automatically.
Let the standards drop, didn't they? Those 2
performances. And I think that was just a sharp reminder. And the other great thing about it is, Mick, that because they've been together for so long, and Steve Clarke has built this almost club culture, Club Scotland sort of idea. You can get away with it as an international manager now because these guys owe him. They've been to 2 Euros. They feel they've let him down. He's going in and he's talked from the start of this latest campaign about he just is so desperate to get to a World Cup. And I think that there is a feeling in the dressing room that the players owe it to him. He's done so much for them. They want to take him now to this World Cup. And I think, had they been new in the door, players turn off because players are getting paid fortunes to play for their clubs, and they might think, well, who's this guy having a swing at me? And when they go away in international duty. So international managers per se need to kind of cajole and cuddle and Steve Clarke's done a lot of that. But he's now got this atmosphere where these guys feel more like a club kind of atmosphere. And I think he was able to give them both barrels, thinking this won't turn them off. If anything, I'll get the right reaction from them when I need it, and he needs it in these last 2 games.
Like all the good managers, they know when the right time is to do that.
When to give somebody a cuddle, and when to give them a kick up the arse. That's exactly that.
100%.
Does it feel a wee bit like? I mean, I'm saying it's like do or die stuff, but is the pressure off a wee bit? I mean, getting the playoff in the bag. It's just a case of just going for it and see where it gets us. It's almost like the pressure's off a wee bit. I don't know. It's a kind of. It's not a free hit, but it's like, let's go for it. We're in this position now. We've not been this close to a World Cup for a long time, probably.
Well, yeah, I think, and I think, Mick, that they've, I think they realise there's 2 stages to this. One, get the result in Athens here on Saturday night that keeps it alive going into Tuesday. Because the worst possible scenario for Scotland would be to lose here and then turn up and Hampden's a damp squib and, there's no catch in Denmark. They've qualified and we just need to go and cross our fingers and hope for the best in the playoffs. So I think that the mindset is do not lose this game, come hell or high water. Be brilliant if you could win it, but just make sure you take the point that you need and then all roads lead to Hampden. And can you imagine what that's going to look and feel like on Tuesday night, Mick? Packed to the rafters. The place will be absolutely electric. And Scotland will have this win or bust shot at Denmark, knowing the World Cup could be 90 minutes away.
I think, Mick, see what you said there about, no, you'd have taken this. I think if you fast forward to the Denmark game, as long as that is the cup final, then you'd have definitely have taken that. No, you'd have definitely taken that shot. But they've got a job to do first. And I think Keith's right. I think they need to take, I know it's boring, but they do just need to take it. No, a game on each kind of individual, on an individual basis. No, they need to concentrate on this Greece game first. Make sure they get out with the point that they need and a decent performance, and then take it on to Tuesday night. And Jacko's right. I mean, if they can do that, Tuesday night could be one of the epic nights at Hampden. I mean, I'm thinking back to was it Scotland-Italy game under Big Eck when they were going for remember the Saturday night. That night they were going for the World Cup.
When the referee gave Italy the free kick for a foul on Alan Hunt.
Christian Panucci scored.
Yeah.
It could be that, but in terms of the atmosphere, people say it was one of the best atmospheres ever, Scotland-wise, because of what was at stake. So I think it'd be the same. I think it'd be the same next Tuesday.
I remember the atmosphere at Hampden when Lee Griffiths scored the 2 free kicks against England. I mean, it was through the roof stuff.
And look, the last game we beat Denmark at Hampden 2-0 was a great night as well. I know Denmark had already qualified for the Euros, but
Hampden has its faults, but on nights like this, especially for the national side, there'll be an electricity in the place. The place will be absolutely alive, just so long as we leave this place still in the running for top spot.
Well, I'm going to pretend here to be a really competent host, right? But I'm seeing some of the comments are coming in here, and Scott B is saying any hints on the choice of goalkeeper.
There's no choice, surely. I mean,
it's Craig Gordon, isn't it?
I don't think so.
It's written from, how we all know this because we've been doing it for so long. Sometimes you arrive at a point in time where something feels as if the story's already been written. Now, we don't know what the end is. That's the tricky bit. But the story is that Craig Gordon, at this age, at this point in his career, when his career could have been over 2 or 3 times, he was left out of the squad to go to the Euros. Everything falls into Craig Gordon's hands now to be given this shot to get Scotland to the World Cup finals at his age. I mean, it's perfectly written. all we have to work out is what the ending is. Is he the hero, or is there absolute agony? But I think Craig Gordon, with his experience against I think there's only 6 caps between 4, 5, 6. Yeah, between the other 2 keepers. So I think it has to be. I think it was always going to be Craig Gordon, unless he's had a shocker in training this week. I don't see any alternative. It will be Craig Gordon, and he's got this chance. The Cinderella man of Scottish football has this chance to just go Hollywood.
The thing is, I think there's a script here for not just Craig Gordon, because I don't know about you guys, but this feels like we're coming to the kind of the end of this particular Scottish cycle. With Steve Clarke's future, we think he might be finishing up beyond the World Cup. There's a lot of players. This is probably going to be their last chance of a World Cup. When you look at guys like Andy Robertson, 32, even John McGinn, came up for 31. These kind of guys, Grant Hanley, a lot of these guys that have been around this squad for a very long time are now getting to that age. This might be the final throw of the dice, and it might be that, like you say, that you hope it's a fairy tale kind of finale to their kind of charge. Beat the Euros and all that stuff. It looks like it's all set for us, I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a bit romantic.
There's a feeling around the camp, having spoken to a few of the players over the last few days, Mick, and I think they mean it when they say it. They feel that this Scotland squad deserves it. After all the miles that they've travelled together, after all the work they've done, after starting off in a place which was not great for anybody, to get to this point in time where they have qualified for 2 Euros, there's a sense of regret with a lot of them that when they've got to these finals, they haven't shown themselves off in a good light. But they have worked so hard, and they've been there, and these guys are coming squad after squad, camp after camp, that you very rarely get a call off. And I believe that there's, and quite rightly, I think the core of this group are looking, guys like Lyndon Dykes said the other day about Andy Robertson and John McGinn, these guys deserve it. Yeah. And the positive thing from our perspective is, Mick, that they've got the big game experience now. They've been there, they've done it. I don't think this opportunity is going to frighten them. I think it will inspire them. I think it will get their juices flowing. That's certainly what we've got to hope for.
And also, there must be a feeling, Mick, within that camp. We know how we felt coming away for the Euros in Germany. You know how disappointed we were in the performances and the results. And I get a feeling that, you know, within that group of players, they want to put that right. They want to actually get to another major tournament, but not just get there. Actually go and make an impact in it. Do you know what I mean? And listen, it's tough to get there, and the World Cup itself is obviously going to be tough, but they can't afford to repeat what happened in Germany. You know, they did brilliant to get there, some great performances, and then, let's be honest, just didn't show up. So I think for those guys you're talking about, the guys who it'll be their kind of last chance, you know, maybe your McGinns, your Robertsons, people like that, they'll not just want to get there, they want to get there and actually do something, actually go there and get a victory under their belt at a major tournament.
I think that's the thing, Mick. You know, we talk about, like, it might not be their last chance. You know, Lyndon Dykes said because he's turned 30, you know, people are going to think, well, that's me, this is... But I don't think they think that. But I think if you're looking at Scotland objectively, we've got a group of experienced players that are just at the sweet spot in terms of, you know, they're at their high point, and probably the next few years we'll see a downward trajectory. That's not to mean that your Mick Gannon Doak and Billy Gilmore, they're still on the way up.
Yeah.
But
I'm talking about guys like that.
This is the optimum period for us. Aye. This is our sweet spot because our experience, the legs haven't gone. Our young boys are exciting and going places, ambitious. So I just feel there is a horrible feeling that if we didn't do it this time, then when are we going to do it?
Maybe a while.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a golden generation. This has been a right good generation for Scotland.
It's been our golden generation, Mick, 100%. It
has been. It'd be great for them to top it off. Get us all to America for the summer. It should be tremendous. And plus, well, we'll talk about the game, I can imagine, tomorrow night in more detail in the actual match. But Greece, nothing to play for. That worries me as well, mind you, because probably the flakiest team in Europe right now, Greece. They can be world beaters or carpet beaters in the same game sometimes. and having no pressure. They could work either way. They could be absolutely hopeless and get thumped, or they could just play with freedom and be really dangerous. I don't know how that's going to play out. I don't know what you guys think.
No, you're right. You're right. I feel the same way. The only thing I'm trying to kind of think about is if we were in that position, what would we be like? I think we'd be
a few sore hamstrings and sore knees, wouldn't there?
That's what.
Yeah, and I do think they've had some call-offs.
The guys pulling out. I think the stadium would also be a lot quiet. I mean, you think of Greece as one of the kind of tougher away games to go in terms of atmosphere. I don't really see that being the case.
No.
So I mean, it should look. It's there for them. There's a massive opportunity there.
They handed back tickets to give Scotland fans more tickets, didn't they? I mean, the original allocation was kind of doubled. I think at one point they couldn't give tickets away. And you know, it's like club managers, a non-event at a game, club managers at this time of year with Europa League, Champions League, Europe Conference, and all that stuff. They're saying the slightest little sore toe, you're staying.
We'll find out tomorrow, Mick, the full extent. Obviously, we'll get the press conferences tomorrow at the stadium, and we'll find out exactly what shape Greece are in. But the indications are that they do expect to be without some of the kind of guys that you would consider to be starters. So that helps. And if the general atmosphere around the thing is downbeat and feeling a bit sorry for themselves, that might help as well. But you might get the opposite sort of reaction. You might get a bunch of guys coming in now saying, right, well, that's a worry. You know, and maybe they'll be a little bit sore about the end result at Hampden, because how we come away for that game with a win, I'm still not sure, but there you go.
Let's speak no more about that one as well. Listen, we'll change tact while I've got you boys. We'll talk about the game tomorrow night in more depth again, probably. See the comments from Michael Gannon, you, Daniel Caw. Unfortunately, I look so I've eaten Daniel Caw these days. But unfortunately, Daniel had to sprint away if anyone's joined us late.
That was actually quite dramatic, just so everybody knows. Just literally seconds before we were coming on air, Daniel took a bit of a bad turn. So I hope he's recovering, and I hope he's watching. And if you are, Dan, then hope you're doing better, mate. That was a bit dramatic. He
literally got injured in the warm-up, didn't he? It was like
it was one of them.
Like, remember the FA Cup time when the big fat goalie in the bench was, as a substitute, eating a pie and the camera went to him? Like, I was that guy and get chucked onto the pitch at the last minute. It was Imagine if he get called onto the game. That's what I felt like. Oh, I put the pie down and run at the pitch. So poor Daniel. But we'll move on to.
I'm sure there's a lot of comments because Daniel's well loved. I'm sure there's a lot of concern amongst a
lot of disappointed viewers. A lot of devastated viewers missing the housewife's choice. But anyway, listen, we're going to domestic matters. We'll go into the Celtic's ongoing search for a manager, will we? Still none the wiser in terms of a new appointment. Wilfred Nonce seems to be the one that's it's emerging as a kind of a front runner. I don't know about today. It's going to cost Celtic money to get him. His contract issues contract at the Cromless crew is a wee bit sketchy in terms of finding details, but he's under contract for a few years and it'll cost him a few quid or a few dollars to get him out. Don't think that'd be a problem for Celtic writing off. $2 million won't make them blink. But is he a guy? I mean, he's only got about 4 years' experience as a manager. I know he's won the MLS Cup, didn't he? He won a trophy with Montreal, a Canadian Cup or something like that. Is he the guy that Celtic kind of guy, or the guy Celtic should be looking at as an up and coming next big thing, or is it too big a leap to go from that to the kind of Parkhead pressure cooker? Because listen, the MLS, we know that the standard's good out there, right? But the scrutiny and the pressure is nowhere near what it's like at a club like Celtic. Nowhere near.
That's key for me, Mick. That's key for me. Now, Celtic pulled the absolute rabbit out of the hat with Ange Postecoglou, didn't they? And everybody looked and thought, well, how's this guy going to cope in this, madhouse environment in Glasgow? He took it like a duck to water, a duck-bill platypus to water. He loved it. It turns out this was, this was where he was meant to be. He thrived on it. He thrived on the atmosphere inside Celtic Park. He thrived on the rivalry. He thrived on the opportunity to go and win because he just loved winning trophies. So you need to be careful not to use broad brushstrokes with these things. You don't know. It's about the individual.
But Ange Postecoglou had 20 years experience as a manager, including managing at a World Cup.
Yes, that's where I was going with that. this does feel a little bit different. This does feel like, you're taking a bit of a punt. Also, I think Paul Tisdale's fingerprints are on it. The link with
his assistant.
Yeah, his assistant
Ampadu,
who he worked with him when Tisdale was manager at Exeter. Ampadu was under 18s, so you feel as if Paul Tisdale is probably the link that makes the numbers join up a little bit, or the dots join up. And I said the other night, Mick, that I'm not sure, because when there was a little bit of back channeling going on with Craig Bellamy and his camp, I think they were led to believe that Paul Tisdale was certainly fronting this up, front and centre. He was leading the charge. He was going to be given the power and the mandate to go and find a new guy. But I strongly suspect, and I think Craig Bellamy's camp began to suspect, that Dermot Desmond ultimately will appoint himself as the kingmaker.
Yeah, that's the way it's been for 26 years at Celtic Park. I mean, in fairness to Dermot Desmond, he's got a decent track record of appointing managers. You go back to Martin O'Neill, attracting Brendan Rodgers the first time round, and obviously get him back again. I mean, these are elite kind of managers. Neil Lennon's a great appointment for them, and the way it worked out. He tried to get Roy Keane before they went and got Ronnie Dyler. I mean, Roy Keane was meant to be the number one, and Dyler went to number two back in the day as well, remember? I think, but people saying, "Oh, why allow Tisdale to go and look for a manager when he's made a mess of the window and all that stuff?" Well, he's the head of football operations. If he wasn't involved in the process, then what's the point of him? Do you know what I mean?
But that worries me.
Involved in that process.
But that worries me because, okay, he's had a long career in professional football, but at what level? Paul Tisdale, yeah. I'm not sure that he's properly qualified for his job, in much the same way that I think there would have to be a concern is Nonsi going to be properly qualified for that role? And I think Celtic need to be careful of that, because they just need to look across the city about what happens when you appoint people into positions that they don't have the CV or the experience to fill. And as we've all spoken about, Scott, that this environment in Glasgow, it takes a certain personality to be able to thrive in it. Yeah. It'll wilt most people.
The question is, Mick, what kind of manager, what do Celtic want? I mean, you'll know better than me, right? I mean, after Brendan Rodgers and how it ended, that evisceration for Dermot Desmond about his behaviour and all that kind of stuff, that kind of selfishness and whatever else, it feels to me that Celtic's next appointment is going to be a guy that isn't that big character that wants to run the whole shooting match, which you need to say is a gamble, because certainly it feels like in my lifetime the best Celtic managers, your Martin O'Neills, Neil Lennons, Brendan Rodgers, even Ange, they had real autonomy over signings and who was coming in and that kind of stuff. They ran the
presence and control.
They ran the club. So it feels, and it might not be, but it feels like this time they're going to go down a different route. And look, I'm not saying it's wrong, but other clubs have been kind of burned by it. I think the Old Firm, the environment in Glasgow is obviously so different. It's unique. I'm not convinced that is the right road to go down, but I just wonder whether Wilfred Nonsi fits into that category where he'll come in purely as a coach and he will work with the players that Celtic bring in.
Well, that'd be a curious thing to do when you look at the mess that Rangers have made of stuff over the last wee while. If you think we're going about to try and copy what they're doing, their model, and I do think I think you're right, Scott. I think when it comes to this pressure pot situation in Glasgow, it takes a certain character, and I think that part of the problem with Rangers recruitment has been lately that the guys that are making these decisions don't really understand it themselves, so they don't really know what it is they're looking for. And if Paul Tisdale is been given his head on this and been allowed to push it, does he really know the requirements for Glasgow and for Celtic?
I'd say the same thing about Paul Tisdale as I've said about Kevin Thelwell and Dan Purdy and people like that. How do they know what a Rangers player or a Celtic player looks like? I know they've got no great experience in England, certainly in Thelwell.
Algorithms and data and all that, yeah.
But do they really know what is required to cut it at Rangers and Celtic? Physically and mentally, the kind of mentality thing being the crucial aspect of it. So that's the big question, and I'm sure that's what Celtic fans will be asking. Very similar to what Rangers fans have been asking the last 6 months.
This is the weird kind of paradox that I think a lot of football clubs these days are looking for is taking the kind of the importance of the manager out of the equation, because the managers are getting sacked every 15, 16 months these days, and they think the structure of the club has to remain, the recruitment has to remain, and if you have to sack a manager, you can bring another one in, and it's not going to be a big deal, which is fine. But I like to say, a club like Celtic and Rangers, that kind of just getting somebody to lift and fit into the model isn't always going to work, because the guys that can handle that pressure cooker are the ones who will want more than that. They won't want to be just a cog in the wheel and a head coach and a guy who could be is disposable. They want.
What was it Brendan Rodgers? What was it Brendan Rodgers said as things were starting to go awry towards the end? If Celtic are looking for a guy just to maintain, then I'm not your man. And that's because he's, one of the biggest beasts in the jungle. He's there not just to keep things ticking over. He's there to improve, to go forward, to strive. And I think it becomes dangerous if clubs with high ambition are happy to appoint a manager who's pleased just to be there. And Rangers have got one of them in just now, and Danny Rowland. It's yet to be seen. He might be a rip-roaring success, or he might not. But I think, and maybe it's us because we're old school, but I think moving away from having a manager who's the central point, the focal point, the leader, the guy that drives everything, and makes the big decisions, the key decisions. I think that you've got to select a guy that you've got absolute trust in and let him drive it. And I think Rangers and Celtic, perhaps, let's see what the appointment looks like in the end. There's a danger that they're moving away from that, maybe too quickly.
But Mick, also see that strategy and model you're talking about, Mick, where the managers just come and go and the structures and the strategies stay in place. That's fine if it's successful. No, that's fine if you're a Bournemouth where it feels like every single player they sign comes in and they hit the ground running, they're unbelievable, and their value goes 10 times within the space of a year. Rangers and Celtic's recruitment's been all over the place for the last year or two at least. So that's where it all goes awry. You can't say, we've got this great strategy.
We need to stick to the structure. The structure's not working.
Exactly, the principles stay the same. It's not working.
It seems to be that the recruitment structure seems to be sign loads of players and hope some of them are good.
Exactly.
And you can't apply that methodology to management because you don't get away with it. I mean, if you sign 2 dud wingers, don't play them. Say a dud manager, you need to replace them, empty them, and get a new one. So it's a tricky one. It's a tricky strategy. I don't know where Celtic take it. I mean, obviously the names mentioned. Is there any ones? I mean, obviously there's Knutson at Bodo Glimt still hanging about. McKenna at Ipswich, Robbie Keane doing well at Ferencváros. I mean, these are the names that I've been banding about now. Is any of these guys jumping out that fit the bill at this point in time? And obviously Nonce is the one that the bookies have lumped on. Do any of these guys fit the bill?
This is what I'm saying, Michael. I wonder if Dermot Desmond is letting Paul Tisdale compile his list and do a bit of running about and have some interviews and speak to people and do some back channeling. And ultimately, if a guy is delivered that Dermot Desmond doesn't want, then Dermot Desmond will throw that in the bin. Thanks very much. And I'll just go and pick somebody and I'll just go and deliver him because Dermot Desmond has got a way about him where typically what Dermot wants, Dermot gets, Mick. So, we can all run about having conversations, speaking to people, but ultimately, to get this over the line in terms of this is going to be the next Celtic manager, Dermot Desmond is going to have to look and say, I think this is a good idea. If he's not convinced, it won't happen.
Do you think, just to wrap this segment up, I mean, the Celtic AGM is a week on Friday. Do you think there'll be a new manager in place by the AGM next week?
I think the board will be hoping so. Might take a bit of pressure off.
I thought they'd want to get it done as soon as possible, especially going into the international break. But just you're not getting that vibe that anything's very imminent at the moment. So I would have my doubts. But I think I said last week when we got asked the question, would Martin O'Neill still be here after international break? I just think the board, they're natural. I think naturally they want to just get it done as quick as possible. I don't think the Martin O'Neill... Martin O'Neill's been a brilliant stopgap for them. They're lucky to have somebody like him that could step into the breach. But no, it's never going to be a long-term, no, even medium-term thing. So I'd be surprised if they don't get somebody in as soon as possible.
It was funny last week in Denmark with Martin Hill, because at times you get the feeling that he really fancies this long term, and at other times the kind of reality dawns on him and he thinks, "Oh, I don't know about this." He was mid sentence last week, and he realised that there's no a midweek break now till end of March or something like that. And you see him going, "Oh, wait a minute." At that point in time, I think he was fairly knackered after a mad fortnight. Anyway. And the prospect of doing that, basically saying that this is what it's like all the time at Celtic and Rangers.
The European game felt like a bit of a wake-up call.
I think he can. Everybody was slapped out of fantasy land with that one, and I think that Martin. And by the way, this is not a criticism, far from it. I think that Martin looked every day of his 73 years during that game. I think he looked tired. He looked exhausted. He looked as if he'd been running on adrenaline just to get to that point. And then reality starts to bite. I think Celtic have got a duty of care. I think that he stepped back in at a time when they needed him. I'm absolutely positive that he's enjoyed every single second of it. This unexpected walk down memory lane.
Yeah.
But I think there's a duty of care here. I don't think it's reasonable or responsible now for Celtic to say to Martin O'Neill, "Yeah, you can do this for the next 7 months, would you, mate?" I don't think that's right.
I don't think that's realistic. I think even he deep down knows that as well, because I think it is such a hard shift for even for a younger guy. And listen, you know yourselves. Listen, even just reporting teams week to week and travelling and all that stuff is exhausting. To be the manager and all the pressure and the focus, that's a different ball game over a longer period of time. But listen, we'll wait and see. I wouldn't be surprised if he does get a little bit longer, because I don't think that the out of work management market is great with Celtic right now. And I think it's going to take a bit of untangling in terms of guys in jobs. So I wouldn't surprise me if it rumbled on another few weeks.
Well, there is that romantic kind of idea, isn't there, of Martin O'Neill getting the cup final. Yeah. And I don't think, if he was to win that, there wouldn't be a dry eye in the house in terms of the Celtic support. I mean, what a way for it all to end. The guy that started the journey at the turn of the century, that made Celtic what they are today, or certainly sent them on the way to being the dominant force in the Scottish game, to finish off with one last bow at Hampden, to win one last trophy, and then step away and let somebody else take on the reins. But I'm afraid there's a kind of a lovely symmetry to that, but the reality might be different. But I could totally understand if Martin O'Neill had that idea in his head, if a lot of the Celtic supporters had that idea in their head. But I think the harsh reality is, if Celtic have got a guy in mind to do this job in the longer term, they need to get him in as quickly as possible, and they need to let him, get his feet under the table and start telling the board what's going to be required in January, because that's a massive window. Yeah,
we keep talking about fairy tale endings, but the football sometimes doesn't has a habit of ripping them up, don't they, as well? Not often you get to wrap these things in a big, nice, fancy bow. Listen, we'll cross the city. Time's moving on. We'll cross the city. One of our colleagues, Andy Newport, done a bit today with Graeme Souness. I don't know if you boys have seen the Dalglish documentary yet on Prime.
I haven't had the chance yet, Michael.
It's excellent.
I'm thoroughly looking forward to it.
I'm digressing, but there's a nice wee line from Souness. He said he was a young player at Liverpool, and he said that he used to babysit for Kenny and push Kelly Dalglish in the pram because he was a babe magnet. Well, the woman kept up to him. It was a great way of meeting women. He said, "It's not my child, I'm just babysitting." But listen, Graeme Souness, if he's talking to Andy, and he's always great value. But he's talking about Kevin Thelwell, and he's basically asked the question I think a lot of Rangers fans are asking is, can you trust him going into a January window? Because obviously Rangers are lacking in some areas in the squad, and they probably need more reinforcements, despite having spent the guts of 40 million in the summer. And he's asking the big question: that can he be trusted to be given more money to spend in January?
The thing, I keep hearing people, a lot of Rangers fans, saying Kevin Thelwell can't be trusted for the January window. Kevin Thelwell's going to get the January window. No, nothing's going to happen
along with Thelwell Jr.
Exactly. Andrew Kavanagh has backed Kevin Thelwell to the hilt, and not just that, as Jacko touched on, Kevin Thelwell has built a department at Rangers, which includes obviously
a new job going every week, isn't there?
His son Robbie, you've got Dan Purdy, obviously, who's technical director. You've got Nathan Fisher, who's head of scouting. There's a new head of football operations, I think, coming in. So if you get rid of Kevin Thelwell, you probably have to get rid of all them as well, because they're all his guys. He's been given license to go and build this.
He's built an empire.
Aye. So
you can't do that in November, can you? The window 6-8 weeks away.
So whether Rangers fans like it or no, Kevin Thelwell is going to get the January window. What I would say is, no, it has to be a lot better in the summer window in terms of what they produce. If they're going to bring new players in, I mean, I think I don't expect them to bring in more than like 3 or 4 players, but they all have to hit, just about all of them have to hit the ground running and have to be a lot better than some of the guys.
Rangers have got money to spend.
I don't think they have a lot.
I don't think they've got a lot.
No,
I'm not sure if they're going to be in a position to bring in reinforcements in January. I think they'll have to sell.
I'd have to be willing to have it.
And that brings us back to the one question: if you need to raise money in order to do a bit of a splurge in January, who do you sell? There's only one option right now: Nico Raskin.
Yep.
And he's not ideal because he's entered into the last 18 months, so you'd need to take a little bit of a reduced fee on him.
Yep.
And that's 6 months before he goes to play for Belgium in the World Cup, where the fee might start skyrocketing again, even though he'd be then in the final year. If he goes in as a great World Cup, I think selling Raskin at this point, and especially if you're trying to tell the fans, Scott, that you believe you're still in a title race, you can't say that on the one hand, and then 2 days later sell your best midfield player. So,
they're going to have to be clever, and whether that means, we don't know the details of these contracts, but I mean, can some of the loan guys go back in January? Can they cut short, say Nasser Jiga's loan at Wolves, where they're paying a hefty wage every week when he's not really cutting it? Could they look to get, me and Andy were talking about this the other day, if they were looking to bring a striker in, no, not going to get rid of Majovski or Shamiti, who they brought in the summer, but could they maybe even get Danilo out on loan, which is a big wage, and try and get that somehow out the door now that he's been playing a few games again? If you could get somebody to take him, they are going to have to be clever and wheel and deal a wee bit. But no, he's got to get it right. Whatever they do, Thelwell's got to get it right, because I'm saying he's definitely going to get this window, despite what the punters say. I think any director of football, if you probably get away with one bad window. If you have 2 in the spin, I think you're really struggling.
What if you have one really bad window and then appoint your son as head of recruitment?
It certainly doesn't help.
It's brazen, isn't it? It's either incredibly stupid to do that, or incredibly brazen.
Oh, in all seriousness, this is the first window where Robbie Thelwell will come into the equation, because Kevin Thelwell's told us,
his department, he's head of recruitment.
He's told us at the press conference, Premier League clubs were after his boy, highly thought of. Dan Purdy desperate to get him in. So the proof's going to be in the pudding. He's going to. I don't think I can remember a situation where there's going to be so much scrutiny on a head of recruitment and a sporting director.
And they've brought that on themselves because it's such a ludicrous appointment.
Exactly.
Yeah, that brings it together, because you're actually going to have both guys in the city. You're going to have Thelwell one side and Tisdale on the other. Both guys who should have roles kind of behind the scenes are going to be front and centre for the next few weeks, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, people talk about strikers and goalies and all this, and managers. These two are right front and centre.
Meanwhile, Mick, you've got Tony Bloom quietly going about his algorithms on the other side of the M8 with Derek McGuinness, and they're doing very nicely, thank you very much. And I bet you they can't wait for January. They can't wait to see what the next name out of the computer is. And Tony Bloom will action it. Tony Bloom will 100% action it if he thinks that Hearts, even if Hearts, if that point he thinks it's really a race for second place, I don't think it will be. I think when the January window opens, I think Hearts will still be in the thick of it at the top of the table, and Tony Bloom will throw the kitchen sink at it.
Yeah, listen, anyway, boys, you boys can't wait to go out and get a bit of Greek food. What's your choice? Like a wee gyros or a moussaka, a bit of lamb clairtico? What you want for the night, boys?
Gyros, definitely. That sounds good to me, Mick.
The good news is, Mick, that last time we were here, which doesn't seem all that long ago, the hotel we were in, there was basically one restaurant in the whole 5 kind of mile perimeter around the place, and we go there every night, and we're there for a few nights, and it was just gyros with pita and tzatziki, and then you'd ask something for something else, and the same thing would come. It would just be presented in a different shape.
That's the joy of the Greek food. I do remember when me and Scotty were in Cyprus years ago, and we shared a mixed Greek plate. Next thing came, honest to God, I fed an army the thing. Honest to God, fast forward an hour, those two are lying in the corner with the meat sweats.
Gotta say, we still tanned it, but
listen, mate, we're representing our country, Scott. We had to go and fight for the jersey. All the way through that plate of meat. But
Look, the light's going out on us here, Mick.
Listen, we'll wrap up there, boys. Listen, thanks for joining us. No doubt we'll catch you again tomorrow night. But thanks everyone for joining in, your comments and watching. We still don't know if he's okay or not. He was racing away. Hopefully he'll be back next week. That's just Thursday night. What am I talking about?
Never seen him move this quickly enough.
Exactly, he's off his mark. But hopefully he'll be back next week in his usual hot seat, and I can just spare you guys my blundering hosting duties.
No, I thought you were excellent, Mick.
Brilliant, Mick.
So best wishes to Dan, and thank you very much for all the comments and everybody that's viewing back home. Sorry this was a bit of a clatter production tonight, but sometimes it happens.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, folks.